And if that light reaches me in time, then maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning. The light grew, from a distant blink to a burning pulse. No Republic ID, no standard formation lights, no transmission codes, just presence. It approached fast, too fast for standard thrusters. Then everything went white. No impact, no sound, just disconnection. I woke to brightness, ceiling lights too clean, too white, not the pod, not the wreck. My suit was gone, my weapons gone. Only the scar across my ribs told me I hadn't died. I sat up, slowly. My muscles screamed, my lungs burned. But I was breathing air. That meant atmosphere, heat, pressure. Someone had saved me. Or something had claimed me. The walls were seamless. No panels, no seams, no screens. Just sterile white, like I'd been dropped inside a simulation. A hum, soft, constant, vibrated beneath the floor. Not mechanical, not artificial. Alive. I stood, bare feet on cool ground, no gravity fluctuation, no temperature drop. Whoever built this sure mastered environment control. On the far wall, a pulse of light moved, horizontal, slow, and the wall vanished, not opened, vanished. Beyond it, a corridor. Same color, same hum. And then I saw them. Two figures, not armed, not armored, human almost. Smooth suits with no fastenings. Eyes a shade too dark, skin wrong, like texture applied over something else. They said nothing, didn't gesture, didn't scan me, they just turned and walked. I followed, because what else was there to do? We walked for what felt like hours. No turns, no doors, just corridor after corridor like the place was watching me without eyes. And then we stopped. Before a circular door, it opened. Inside, a single chair and a voice. No mouth, no body, just the voice. We apologize for the disorientation, Captain Thorne, but time is limited and your memory is incomplete. I didn't ask how they knew my name, because deep down, I knew they'd known it long before I arrived. The chair wasn't made for comfort, it wasn't even made for humans, but I sat anyway, not by choice, by pressure, like gravity, but directed at the mind. The voice returned. No direction, no echo. Your mind carries remnants, fractured truths. Pieces of helix. I tried to speak, but my mouth didn't move, not physically, not neurologically. Still, they heard. You accessed the file. You made a choice. The Republic must not receive that signal. Pause, I felt something slip behind my thoughts, like fingers brushing across memory, not extracting, rearranging. We require clarity, before judgment. Then came the images, not memories, but recreations, moments I lived, altered, my ship exploding. But this time I was smiling. The escape pod launching, but I wasn't inside. I watched my own death, over and over, each version more distorted than the last. They weren't asking questions, they were testing versions of me, seeing which one cracked, which version betrayed the message, which version would beg to forget. But I didn't break. Not because I'm strong, because I've already been broken. You can't threaten a man with pain, if pain is all he has left. At some point I stopped trying to understand, because I realized this wasn't about knowledge, it was about reaction. Each memory they twisted was a question, each false reality, a probe. What will you choose when nothing is real? The key. Chair dissolved beneath me, or maybe I stood up. There were no walls now, no ceiling. Only white. And then mirrors, hundreds of them, each reflecting a different version of me. Riven in a Republic uniform. Riven as a separatist. Riven infected by Helix. Riven dead. They made me watch. One screamed, another laughed, one just stared. Walked between them, heart pounding, until I saw the final mirror, not a reflection, a recording, me, in the escape pod, pressing the beacon. Why? A voice asked. Why did you choose to warn them? And I answered without speaking, because the truth doesn't need language. Because in the middle of all the death, all the silence, all the lies, someone had to scream back, someone had to say, I saw, I remember, I won't let it disappear, the four Mirrors shattered, the white faded, and for the first time I saw them, not forms, not faces, just presence. A shadow in the shape of intention. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. I understood. They weren't trying to stop me. They were trying to decide if I was still human. Then, silence. A silence that felt absolute. Not empty, but full. Like something massive had turned its gaze away. And I fell. Not through space, not through time, but through myself. Everything collapsed inward. The memories, the questions, the mirrors, gone. And I woke up, again, same brightness, same sterile ceiling, same white room. But this time, I wasn't alone. A shape moved near the edge of my vision. Tall, almost human. But wrong. It didn't walk, it flowed. And where its feet should have touched the ground, the light bent. I didn't speak. Neither did it. But I knew the test was over. Whatever they were, they had decided I was allowed to live. Or maybe I was allowed to continue. The figure lifted its arm, slowly, deliberately, and something changed inside my skull. Not pain, not control. Clarity, a sequence of coordinates burned into my vision. A memory that wasn't mine, a mission that wasn't optional, and before I could react, everything blinked. Blackness, then stars. The presence didn't move, it just existed, a shape of will without a body. A thought that looked back, they spoke again. Not with sound, but I heard it, a language without words, direct, inevitable. What is a survivor? It wasn't a question. It was a judgment. I felt my memories being peeled back, exposed, not just the war, but before it. Before I was a captain, before the uniform. They showed me Earth, not the cities, not the skylines. A child, standing by a broken fence, watching. Smoke rise from a riot. I hadn't remembered that day in years. You survived your world. You survived your species. You survived yourself. I clenched my fists. What do you want from me? Your pattern. Your reason. Before we decide, if you can be more. The white around me collapsed. And I was standing in a room. Not metal, not stone. Some kind of synthetic surface that bent slightly underfoot, pulsing faintly like muscle under skin. I wasn't alone. Rows of pods, each one holding a person. Some human. Some close, eyes closed, wires running into the skull, steady breath, suspended, and then I saw mine, empty, still warm. I was never rescued. I was extracted, not to be saved, to be studied, to be compared. You are not the only one. Who screamed into the void, the voice said again, but few scream with reason. I walked between the pods, some faces twitched in sleep. Others were too still, they weren't just preserved, they were paused. Snapshots of decisions, moments of reaction. A woman with dried tears on her cheek, a man gripping his fists like he was still fighting. A child, curled up in fear, whispering something in a language I didn't know. They weren't experiments, they were reflections. This is not a prison, the voice echoed. It is a mirror. I turned. Then what does that make me? There was no answer, only a shift. Suddenly I was in a pod, body paralyzed, glass fogging over. I could see my own face now. A man emptied of choice. A man watched. Who do you become when no one tells you who you are? The question cut deeper than any blade. I screamed. But no sound came. I wasn't afraid of death anymore. I was afraid of being rewritten. Then the light changed. Warmth returned. Tihai. Glass pulled back. I gasped for breath like I had been drowning inside myself. I stood again, alone. Except something had changed. On the far wall, a door had appeared, or maybe it had always been there. No handle, no panel, just presence. You are a singularity. You were not supposed to survive, but you did. Now, choose. Return to silence, or cross, and become. I reached for the door, and it opened without contact. No hiss, no click, just a shift in space. Beyond it, a corridor of light and movement. No walls, no floor, just currents, like walking inside a thought. Time didn't pass there, or maybe it passed differently. I moved forward, not with steps, but with memory. Every moment I thought I'd forgotten flashed beside me like living ghosts. My first kill. The silence after the last goodbye to my sister. The moment I pressed the beacon in the escape pod. All of them. Replayed. But this time, I wasn't alone in them. Something else was watching with me, not to judge, not to punish, to understand. I realized this wasn't an interrogation. It was an invitation. And then I saw it. The core. A suspended sphere of light and geometry. Shifting shapes that didn't obey physics. It wasn't technology. It wasn't consciousness. It was a bridge. "What are you?" I whispered. "We are what remains," the voice replied. "Of what came before. Of what still listens." I stood before the core, and it spoke again. "You carried memory. You preserved truth. You chose resistance. You are the variable. We are continuity." Then it showed me other Riven thorns from other timelines, some who warned, some who fled, some who joined Helix, and one who destroyed everything. It didn't ask me a question. It showed me the question, who will I become next? The light touched me, not with heat, with memory. I didn't scream, didn't resist, because for the first time since the fleet died, I wasn't alone in the dark. If this story moved you, if the silence felt too real, then you already know. This isn't over. The signal wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Subscribe now, and stay with us, because what comes next will change everything.